Good morning, everyone. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and my name is Remy Tai. Such a pleasure to be here this morning. We're excited to be here on the Good Morning Education Show. This is the show you'll be waiting for, and we're always here from Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time, Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. West African time, and on Sundays, right? We are here 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. West African time. This is a good money education show, the best thing to happen to you every day. And we bring to you conversations within and around the world of education. We spend some time to talk about, prevalent issues within and around the world of education. And it's always a great time on the show. It's always a great time on the show. Today we're going to be having a great time as well. We're talking about several things, several issues that you could glean from, things you could learn from, things you should actually benefit from on the show. We are always excited to have people on board to share their thoughts, and that's why we always tell people, please do tell us your name and your location where you're streaming from so we can actually appreciate you, recognize you, and take comments and contributions on the show. You have opportunity to ask questions. Please do not hesitate to ask your questions when you're on the show. It's a show where we learn together, we share together because we all want to grow together. And I believe that today is definitely not going to be an exception on the show. So please, let's officially welcome you. If you're there, tell us your name, tell us where you're streaming from, and let's connect with you on the show today. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and we're going to be learning together. And as usual, I take people through the rundown of what to expect, and we'll just tell you that on the show you have opportunity to hear from several people. You have opportunity to know and also discuss about headlines making the rounds, headlines within and around the world of education. And I believe honestly that you're going to benefit because we don't just talk about one-sided things. We talk about things that actually evolve around businesses, our practices, especially for those within the world of education. So we spend time to treat headline news first, and then we move towards after headline news, we move towards a conversation on the show. And yesterday, we had a conversation talking about mental resignation, and we had our experts join us. We had Rhoda, we had Olushola Olumide, we had the safety chick, and we had Folu Falodun and myself, and we spent some time also treating the headlines that has been making the rounds. But we also had a great time, talking about the issues, that pretty much is facing the education space. And I believe that you would agree with me that it's we are living in interesting times, pretty much. So today we're not going to waste too much time. We're going to go straight and we're going to dive into the matter for today's show. And I believe that we're going to be having a great time on the show as well. So please welcome everyone. Welcome. Yes, do we have any comments from anyone? No comments yet. All right, so today we're going to take a different turn in our approach. We're going to be talking about something very interesting and also something quite unique. Um, excuse me. We're going to be talking about, like I said, something very interesting and something quite unique. Our topic today, yesterday we talked about mental resignation. So our topic today on the Good Morning Education Show is work and play. Work and play. And we're just going to go straight to the conversation without wasting much time. Um, when we talk about work and play, I'm sure so many things might come to your mind. So many things might come to your mind. But everyone out there actually has a clue as to what work means. But at the same time, also people have their own perspective and perception as to what play resonates and represents. A lot of times when we look at work and we look at play, there are two concepts that we hardly feel can go together. They are almost like at two extreme poles. We look at work from a perspective of seriousness and formality. We look at work as something that requires so much of level of professionalism, um, so much of sternness, so much of you name it. Work is seen as hard. Work is seen as duty. But a lot of times people find it difficult to identify with play in the same context of work. You even have in some cases handbooks, rule books, manuals, work guide, code of conduct that stipulates it. In fact, there are prohibitions in the workplace or in projects or within a group of association of people where play is seen as an alien subject. But when you look at it over the period of time, let's take our minds back a bit to when we were much younger, you find out that a lot of things critical to our preparation to learn was the element of play. And I'd like to use the opportunity to welcome Alero. Good morning, Alero. Thank you. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well. Good to have you on the show. It's been a while.
I know. How's everybody?
Yeah, so we're talking about work and play, and I was trying to give an introduction, and I was trying to stress the fact that a lot of times people hardly tend to reconcile the two. Look at work from a very, very clear perspective as serious zone, as a point where we look at ourselves as this is work, but then we don't reconcile play. I don't think a lot of people agree that play can surface in the concept of work. People look at play as something that is less serious, something unwanted, something unwarranted, something childish in most perspective. But then today, that's what we're talking about: work and play. And I want to believe that today will probably shift a lot of people's mindset as regards to the concept. Play does not necessarily have to be considered an unserious activity or an unserious introduction into the activity and operations of a people, of a person. I think play should be integrated into our everyday life. Play, at some point in time should move away from activity and become a philosophy, because most of the time we find out that, especially our regular work, which is routine based, there is no soul when you begin to follow on something day in, day out, and there is no integration of play. Meaning that conscious activity, conscious moment that has been designed to bring about expression of energy, not necessarily running around the hall and trying to laugh, have a laugh, or throw a banter. But play, I believe, is a lot of times missing in the place of work, and that's why a lot of people consider the workplace and think that it's a war place. That's WAR. What's your take on that? Let's hear from you, Alero. Over to you.
Yeah, I completely agree, 100%. Definitely, I feel that and believe that work should be a place where you do play. It should be we spend what, 8 hours a day, generally speaking, at work, thereabouts, with people that we maybe would not necessarily meet on a good day. So having, or in your regular walk-in, so having a place where you can equally feel comfortable, be free, be a bit jovial, I think is important to your mental health more than anything else. Work can be monotonous, especially if it's not your own business. You kind of sit down and think, okay, this is where I make my money. This is where I make my living.
Thank you so
if you're going to spend that much energy in a place where you may not necessarily, it's not your first choice, make the best of it and enjoy that time there and be playful. And that doesn't mean don't do the work, but enjoy your time there, and don't take everything too seriously, because it's not that serious. you know. Yeah, I mean, and I also, when we were speaking, just thinking about, I think I know some old, like when I say old people, let's say in their 70s, 80s and up, in mid 80s, and if you see them around, you can just see that they've just enjoyed life. They have genuinely enjoyed life and everything they've done in life, and that's because, and they've had some terrible experiences, they've had to work in some horrible places, but they've enjoyed that experience because they've made it not just about me going in and doing the work. They've made it a fun environment for them, and you're the only person that can change your environment by changing the way you approach certain things and the way you receive certain things. So yeah, that's my initial 2 pence.
Thank you so much for that. And you know, just what you said brings me to the question, where I'm sure you've heard this being said many times, when people say mind your business, and a lot of people tend to take that literally, you know, into the workplace, where they just say, you know what, I came here to work, I came here to make my pay, I'm answerable to myself and my family, blah, 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 blah. And they take the mind your business concept in such a way that they alienate themselves from people. And sometimes they do a lot of work, but they have poor relationship with their colleagues, poor relationship with their superior. What's your thought on that? You know,
absolutely. I had a conversation with a colleague of mine last week, actually. So of course, we're all doing this working from home dramatics. Anyway, so he was explaining to me that he used to work in an environment where there was one, you know, he said he gets on well with everybody, but there was one particular person that nobody could get on well with at all. There was no, you know, human rapport. There was no interaction. He would do the work. He was very good at the work. But when it came down to normal, like, you know, regular standard interactions as you would with another human being, whether they're friend or even foe, there was nothing there. It was just like a cold slate. And, you know, he said that it just made it hard to get anything done. So you would have to go through the books, if you like, to get an answer, when you could have simply walked up to that person and said, hi, Robert, you know, could you give me the answer to the XYZ? It would have to now go through a whole series, like an email, and then wait for a response, and then respond to that email. And then that could take 3 or so days because the gentleman had he was minding his business. He had the way he works, and that was it. And so this gentleman, my colleague, was basically saying that, you know, yes, he did the work, but nobody liked him. Even to the point where he got the promotion, he couldn't manage anybody because it was all about business. And at the end of the day, we're in a world where we interact with human beings. Human beings are not meant to be in these little tiny quiet zones. We're meant to interact with people, and it makes life easier when you are able to work easily and build rapport with people. And yeah, so that's that with this gentleman.
Thank you so much for that. You know, thinking about it, we tend to see a lot of times, just like you said, not just relationship, you know, and we have Nana is asking for your name. What's the name of the lady speaking? The lady speaking is Alero.
Yeah.
Alero, the business tourist, aka Alero the Great, aka Alero Scott, Alero Coffee Republic.
It's not that bad. I haven't had my coffee this morning. So I'm a little bit rusty. So please forgive me. I haven't had my coffee this morning.
You know, I'm not going to say that. Zip it. Not saying anything. All right. So yes, that's Alero. Alero is here, and we also have Olushola Olumide here. Good morning, Mr. Olushola. Thank you for joining.
Good morning, Rotimi. Alero, good morning. Nice to be here.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're talking about work and play. And we had a very good introduction from Alero, and also we're trying to talk about some things that some people might actually be taking a bit too far in an extreme. Talking about, for example, when we hear the word mind your business, and people sometimes take that word and embrace it to the point where they zone everyone out, ostracize themselves, and just stay in that mode to do things. And sometimes some of them are actually productive, so to speak. They get work done, but it comes at some expense. We would like to hear your thoughts on this work and play. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, I think individual has a way of learning, working, and coping. But I tell you, we can't rule out playing, whether consciously or unconsciously, or else the person may experience burnout. And also, the way we've been created, we are social being, and that interaction, that relationship, that laughing together, talking together, goes a long way. In fact, playing is therapeutic. Yes, it has its place in us as human beings, affect our mental alertness, our capability. It rejuvenates us. We are able to bounce back. Of course, not excessively. It's not because you are leaving your work undone and playing around. It's like you are reading your book. You discover that at the beginning you are assimilating at an increasing rate. Along the line, you keep assimilating at a decreasing rate. That means the level with which you assimilate, you get the work done is reducing, even though you are expending more energy. At that time, it's time to maybe stand up. You go play. In fact, it will be shocking to you that at times you are playing, your mind is still on your work and you are batting creativity while you are playing. Things happens, you are like, whoo, I didn't see it this way. Oh, you see reflexes, you see situations, somebody says something, you know, unintentionally, you're watching movie and you're like, and those things add together to aid you. So by the time you return to your table, you discover that you pick up and you are more productive. There's no point staying put on your table just to earn always working. Sorry, it doesn't help. There could be burnout, there could be fatigue, or what we call jet lag. You are there, you are not really assimilating. Why don't you stand up? You go play, smile at somebody, crack jokes, take coffee. Well, like Alero said, she's not taking one this morning. And you come back, you are better off. Instead of just sitting down there. Moreover, we need other people around us. And there is not when you need help, you go meet people. That person may amount to using people to achieve his or her aim. What about when you don't need anything, but you go out of your way to also help people in the course of playing? And do you know, when we play, because we are not taking things so serious, we tend to achieve certain things because there is no apprehension, no anxiety, you are not paranoid, and you are just free. And yet, your mind is at work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. While you're speaking, KK joined us. It's getting to be a full house this morning. Good morning, KK Fajai. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
I missed the way you say good morning. All right. So, also, I just want to say this so that we also, help people out there understand that a lot of people might be asking the question: are we advocating for a less serious atmosphere? And I want us to talk about, play as a philosophy, not just as an activity. I've witnessed some brands actually take this literally, to ensure that it becomes part of the culture of the organization, where play is integrated and it becomes a philosophy, because they know the impact in the overall scheme of things. So we've heard, I'm sure some of us know, there's a particular brand I would not call it like an ice cream store, where you walk into the store and part of their modus operandi is that they must sing, most like when you get in or when you're about to purchase your ice cream, and then sometimes they juggle the ice cream before they give or serve the ice cream to you. I'm sure we've heard of that before. So in that context, that's an element of play, meaning that they've created specific activities and integrated those activities to their work. That it represents play, as opposed to when we play and we abandon work, And let me start to serve KK breakfast. So KK, let's hear your thoughts. We're talking about work and play. How do we begin to integrate play as a workplace philosophy? KK, are you there? Can you hear me, KK? Can anyone hear me though?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So if KK can hear me, let's Alero, you could take that question.
Okay. So just repeat it again, please. I just pulled a couple.
So how do we activate this and integrate this as a workplace philosophy? Looking at the fact that it actually plays out in a kind of outcome.
So I think kind of integrating it into workplace. Of course, not every single workplace would, you need that level of play, if you like. But I think it should be from the top down, or maybe just one I don't know. It's quite difficult to say. It could be a overall kind of a business change where they allow a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere, where people feel more comfortable to be at ease and be a bit more themselves. Or it could be, or it could be within a department. When you were talking about kind of sessions or companies that allow you to have, to play, it triggered one of my early jobs, and I actually worked in a toy shop, the world's greatest toy shop, so to speak. And even in a toy shop, there were people that were just miserable. You're in a toy shop, you're meant to be around children all the time. And there were people that were just point blank miserable. They shouldn't have been there. If they were going to be there, they should have been in the back office counting the money, not on the shop floor, trying to get children and parents to purchase goods. But yeah, so I mean, that's a classic case. You're in a toy store, it's encouraged to misbehave. And so I fit in quite perfectly in there. But again, there are other companies where, if everybody's a little bit stiff. I worked in a corporate top FTSE company once, and I'm just a jovial person generally, and I personally can't deal with I can't wear a suit and tie to work. It would never work. I'd go for the interview in a suit and tie, and then after that, too bad. And even within that company, there were some people the finance team initially were like very frozen and cold, but over time, people adapt. People are adaptable beings. And I think that's something that we need to remember, that people are adaptable. So if a few seeds are kind of planted where people are allowed to be a bit freer and encourage an element of being themselves, I wouldn't even necessarily say play, but yeah, being themselves, being a bit more relaxed, then I think it will now seep through the rest of the company or the rest of the department, etc. There was a question that came up that I saw across from one of the viewers, and she mentioned about emotional intelligence, whether people are unable to, or that particular person I spoke about who didn't communicate with his colleagues, whether he was had emotional intelligence issues. And it may be that he did, but from what I heard is that individual was married, had children, had a family, but just chose not to interact with his colleagues. So yeah, I hope that answered the question somewhat.
Hello, I think KK can bring her thoughts. I think Rotimi is out of the studio as we speak. So KK,
I didn't quite hear what the question was. That's why I left.
yes, Rotimi was talking about how to integrate play into the company culture or company philosophy, and not necessarily making people to become loafers, avoiding their work, but how do we integrate a sort of play into the work environment? I think that was what Rotimi was trying to say.
Right. So I mean, there are different types of workplace culture, and I think workplace culture is determined by the value system of the organization. So if it's an organization that has friendliness in their values, for example, then it's easy for them to integrate friendliness into the workplace because that's one of their core values, to be friendly. And so what you would find in such an organization is, I mean, it's not like they're faffing around or joking around, but things are not generally rigid. And so if somebody, for example, so play for me, right, is not giving high fives. Play for me is not um doing a ring around the roses in the front office. No, that's not play for me. Play for me is understanding that every single person has um comes in with their diversity, and it's okay to have a diverse workforce. It's okay for people to feel that they can express themselves, right? For me, that's what play is. So it's not the play itself. For me, it's the philosophy of play that comes into being in a workplace that is not culturally toxic, a workplace that is encompassing of people's diversity. So that's what I would say. What are your values in your organization, and that your values really do drive your workplace culture, right? If your culture is not aligned with your value system, then that's the wrong value system that you have put out there, right? Because guess what? Your culture every single day will trump your values. Your culture will trump your policies. Your culture will trump these really amazing things that you would like to see in your organizations. But just to speak directly to the question and say, how do we integrate play in the workplace? I think it's just not taking ourselves too seriously, right? There are times where everybody's tense, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with cracking a joke to just ease people back at that time and let people just just like take a deep breath, and then you get into the nitty gritty of things. And there are many times where we've been in really serious meetings, and somebody says, why is my hand shaking like this? And then everybody starts to laugh. Of course, we're worried. Of course, it's a serious meeting. That somebody says their hand is shaking means that their hand is shaking, and they just want to diffuse the tension, and everybody would laugh at that time, and they would come back right back to the seriousness of what it is that we're dealing with. So that's one way. Really, once you don't take yourself too seriously, once people know that they're free in your organization, you would find that they're joking around, they're playing around. I mean, many times in our organization, my team has come to me and said, "Oh," and they see I'm serious, I'm laughing, I'm not smiling at all. I'm maybe in a meeting, and it's a really serious one, and somebody comes and knocks and says, we just brought this for you. You've been sitting down all day, and we can imagine that you're tired." And then I will start to laugh because it's funny. And then they'll drop maybe a cupcake or a sweet or something on my table, and then they go back out. And that's okay, right? Because that's the kind of organization that we're building, where people are free to actually express themselves, and where we see each other as friends, as family, not just as workplace colleagues. Yeah. So that's my contribution to the topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, KK, for that. I love the fact that you said that a diverse workforce, and a diverse workforce is something that we almost always try to encourage, so that it's not just like everybody's thinking one direction, acting one direction, behaving in certain ways. Very important. And we're talking about work and play. If you're just joining us, this is the Good Morning Education Show, and we're having a very lovely time this morning. We have Alero, the business tourist. We have Olushola Olumide. We have Okin Fajay, and of course my very self. And we're talking about work and play. Now let's come back to work. Let's come back to work. One of the things that we hear, especially in this part of the world, where people talk about, even within the space of the workplace is the enabling environment. The enabling environment. The enabling environment. We all know how pressure can come up at some point in time while we're carrying out our duties. And within the workplace, what exactly is an enabling environment? How do we know that we are not going or veering to an extreme, a negative extreme, with regards to demand or demanding for an enabling environment? Let's hear from Olushola a bit.
Thank you, Rotimi. Well, I want to say when you talk about enabling environment, there may not be one size benchmark or parameter that must or ingredient that must be found when you are talking about enabling environment in any way. Okay, psychological, emotional point, an environment where people are free in their mind and spirit, and you are not being afraid. You know, KK just said some things now, even though she's seated at the top of the organization, but she feels that at times she needs to laugh just to, you know, when your guy at the top is laughing, I can tell you the multiplier effect on the employees, especially when the situation where somebody dropped the ball and the way you go about correcting it and making things work doesn't strip that person naked or remove his or her humanity. You know, it goes a long way. And when you are called to a meeting, maybe something had happened, you guys don't know, everybody enters the room in an apprehensive manner. But here you are, the person that is supposed to lead or calling the shot is dousing the tension, make people relax. I tell you, if you take a kind of a resonance imaging of the faces, of the mind of the people, you will see how relieved they became because your guy is laughing. And you don't want to work in a toxic environment. You don't want to work in a place where innovation is almost dead. If Oga doesn't say it, nobody dare go ahead and do it. You don't want to work in a place, it's as if you missed your way, and going to office, you are not excited because you are afraid, you are apprehensive, somebody is putting you down. And for me, I think enabling environment where you allow people to thrive, let them grow individually, yes, also contributing to the collective. Let the people know they are human. The pay may not be much really, but they are happy, they are excited, they are like, woo, I'm happy to be here. Not that you are paying people more only for you to strip them naked, you talk down at them. At times, you hear bossy rainy cases on people using derogatory words. For me, it's a no-no. And of course, as far as infrastructure is concerned, when infrastructures are provided, I see it as an enabling environment. When you engage people, you have to give them tools to work if you want them to deliver. If the tools are not there, it becomes difficult, if not impossible, to get work done. I think for me, I want to stop while I allow other people to give their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Alera, do you want to say something on that as well?
No, I mean, really, just, you know, kind of ensuring that you have an enabling environment it's key. It's, I guess, it kind of doubles up. You know, if you're going into an environment, not everybody wants to be at work all the time. It's not anybody's first choice. So you want to be in an environment where you feel free. You're, you know, you don't feel stressed out. You don't feel like tension. You don't hate being at work. Because if you don't like doing something, you're not going to be the most productive person anyway. You're not going to give your best. In fact, you're likely to do the bare minimum to just get by, you know, or play eye service, that kind of game. So if you're in an enabling environment, it makes you, I believe it allows you and makes you want to give your best, and you can be free. You're allowed to make mistakes. When you make those mistakes, you are able to own up and not be fearful of the repercussions of making an error at work. It allows you to grow and learn within that workspace. You're able to absorb more you're able to learn from other people and learn about yourself, what your true skills and your true abilities are. And it is from the top down, like I say. It's good to have it in little silos, but then if the management is allowing you to be free and be who you are whilst delivering work, then those are the environments and those are the organizations that make leaps and bounds. And it can be a bit tricky in the west of Nigeria, Africa, Nigeria, because we've had such a stern culture in the past where if Oga is in the building or if Madam is in the building, we cannot leave. Even if Madam is in the office getting ready to go to a party and she doesn't leave till 8 p.m., we are there because that is what we have been encouraged to do. So it's hard to change those. It's harder to change that kind of mindset, but we're all hopeful that we'll get there eventually and make for more positive and progressive work environments, and therefore the economy as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'd like to ask KK this question before we wrap up, and is sometimes also important for us to look at work and play like a commandment, but a commandment that the individual needs to also take responsibility for. So I'd like KK to touch a bit on the fact that while you work, you also need to know that it's your responsibility to have your measure of play post-work. That is, beyond the work environment, you're responsible to have a quality of life. I don't think that we should outsource that to the organization completely. KK, let's hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I love that question. I actually love what we're talking about today. I think I'm so happy that I roused myself up and jumped in this morning. When you're in a holiday mode, everything just seems to slow down. To be honest, right, Rotimi, I know that you say people need to have their measure of work out of the organization, but when you have an organization that is texting you and calling you and demanding stuff off you at times that are out of that, the organization itself doesn't have boundaries. What then eventually happens is that even the team members might find it difficult to enforce their boundaries, right? Because the organization is expecting this from me, and you've closed, but you can't say no because you need the job. So I truly believe that it still works hand in hand, and so the organization needs to understand and respect boundaries. If not, then honestly they have a poor work culture. And that's the reality. Of course, there are times where I send my team a message at 10 o'clock and I'm like, guys, I'm so, and you would see, ask any of my team members, I would always start it with, guys, I'm so sorry to be messaging you at this time, but when you wake up in the morning, I need this first thing in the morning. And they would respond to me, some of them. I'm like, no, Ms. KK, it's okay. But I mean, I always feel bad. And I'm not saying I'm the best of employees, because there are days where I'm totally mental. But it's not the... I'm sorry, I can laugh at myself a lot. But it's not the norm. It's not the norm, right? And so employees, of course, need to have friendships outside of the workplace. They need to be able to plan for themselves for even second, third, fourth portfolios, to be honest. Sometimes it's not even play. It's doing something else that you're passionate about. You can be passionate about where you work, but there must be other things that you're passionate about. And so being able to engage in those things without feeling like the organization is going to just crucify you for it. I feel that that's something that people should be able to do and have support from their organizations as well. Because the reality is, like, Monday to Friday, right? Sometimes from 7 to 4, you're in this organization. So they become almost like your life. So if you're not getting the support that you need to get from that organization, it honestly makes things a little difficult, even your personal life. However, it should kind of be separate. So by personal life, I don't mean that your work life is not personal to you, but extra work activities, if you can put it like that. People should go out and have fun. Like I said, having friends outside of the organization really helps, because they kind of pull you out. But you as an employee, you really need to get out there and say, you know what, I'm not going to let work swallow me, and I'm going to step up. For example, I got an email yesterday. There's a client I've been chasing, huge client, and they finally emailed me yesterday. I was with family out, we went out yesterday, and I refused to pick up that email. I've only just responded. about 10 minutes ago. I just said to myself, I really wanted to, I can't even lie to you guys, but I said to myself, no, I want to spend this time with family. And I refused to respond to that email yesterday. So I actually said to myself, I'm not going to respond to that email. And that's was something that was very important to me. But before I hand back the mic to you, Rotimi, I just wanted to chip into the empowered workforce, right? So empowering, is it empowered that you said? There's something you said. Inclusive. Was it inclusive?
Enabling.
Sorry, what did you say?
Enabling.
Enabling. Thank you so much. Alero. Enabling workforce. To enable, right, is to give people sometimes permission to do what it is that they want to do. To enable is to give people power, to give them the skills to do what it is they want to do. To enable is to give people the space to do what it is that they want to do. And so it's really important that when we see ourselves as an enabling workforce, or when we're building enabling structures, that we look not at the organization first, but at the people first. We need to look at the people that are working with us and say, what is it that they need? Because what is enabling for me might not be what is enabling for you, Rotimi, or Olushola, or Lalero. So I need to be able to look at the organization and say, what is enabling for them? And something that we've done is, when our and I like using myself as an example, right? Because that's what I know. So I don't mean to like push my organization in everybody's face. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to use us as case studies. Something we've done is that every single member of the team who has a business, when we can, and I say when we can, because sometimes it's not easy to do that, we actually buy from the organization. We actually buy from them, right? So that we're supporting their business. Another thing that we've done is during COVID, sorry, before COVID, I mean, well, we've never really been strict on closing time, but we were stricter before COVID. But right now, because even right now, things have totally changed in the education sector. A lot of parents are still working from home. A lot of parents are still having a hybrid sort of work culture in their organizations. So it then means that we used to have a lot of children doing after school. By after school, I mean that we close at 2:00, and then parents will not pick up till 4, 5, 6. We rarely have that anymore. That has cut back, and of course, that meant income that had cut back from the organization. Because we need to right now, we used to have maybe about 50 to 60% of the student population doing after school. Right now, maybe it's about 20%. So that's huge, right? But what we've then done is we've said we've adjusted the work time for the staff as well. So what it means is that if school closes at 2:00, by 2:30, you would notice that 80% of the staff are gone. They close by 4, but they're gone by 80% by 2:30, because there was no need for us to keep them in the building. Why? The work they needed to do, honestly, was marking scripts, planning their lessons they could do from their homes. And so we let them go. And so what happened is that there's so much, it's almost like a light bulb went off even much brighter within the organization. People feel, you know what, I don't have to stay this late. But you find that when they have work to do, we don't need to tell them to stay, they stay. And so that's an empowering workforce. That's an enabling work environment. And so Nigerians, we really need to get out of that space where we are the tell-all and know-all because it's our business. We cannot run that business by ourselves. Back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
Before we wrap up, I just wanted to tell you that be sure to expect an avalanche of people at your doorstep that you've branded your school now, the school that closes early, so hey, yo, see Rhoda, she's looking funky this morning. Oh my God, that's an enabled workforce.
Good morning, Rhoda.
Hi, Rhoda. This is my mobile. Who am I seeing? I can't see. Jeez, who is here? Okay. Hi. Alero. Hey, Alero.
Alero, show your cup of coffee now. Show your cup of coffee.
I just see Alero.
Cup of coffee. Yeah. And then we have
KK. Good morning. I thought to jump back to you guys.
Yeah, so we're about rounding off. So let's just give you a chance to say something. So we're speaking about work and play. We've addressed the alternate meaning and the philosophy that we should be driving is to have work and also play as a composite of our workplace culture. Playing not as regards to being unserious, but integrating creative ways to make work a bit more enabling. both for ourselves and the recipient of work. So let's just hear from you, as we'll be using you as our sign-off work this morning.
Again. Anyway, the only thing on my mind right now about work and play is that we don't play enough as educators. Those of us who are in the classroom, we don't play enough. And I guess that's the disconnect that we are seeing with ourselves and the children that we teach, even as we design learning experiences as educators. There's not enough play in our head, enough to connect with the children. So I, for one, very particularly, I've always loved my downtime, and I use my downtime very well. And because my downtime has a lot of interest areas, whether it's from World Economic Forum or Netflix for new movies, or dance routines from exercise, or my love for the green for nature, just going outdoors, or the things that my kids are interested in. So I watch their cartoons. I watch their right now they are teenagers, so they have a lot of interest on YouTube. One of my daughters is she loves art, so she likes to. Yesterday she was investigating how to draw anime. So she was excited about implementing the same picture she saw on YouTube and just having. She was like, "Mom, this is so real," and things like that. So there's just a number of because we don't play enough, we don't connect enough. So I guess play. Maybe I can end with this one. Is like play is the soul of learning, and if you want to be a lifelong learner, if you want to design things that connect with people, if you want to design, want to connect, want to implement. There's, you just really need to think about the downtime, think about your interests, think about those things that make you happy. It doesn't have to, no one cares whether it makes another person happy. It just makes you relax, and it sort of like boosts your brain to think up, to be able to think outside the box. And I guess for me, it just makes me to reflect about all the things that have been happening recently in education, and just say teachers don't play enough, so we don't know the children that we're teaching. Muted.
We need to play enough, and I like the word you said. There's not enough play in our heads. Well, I hope people also don't take that counsel in a wrong way. Maybe that's anything. Oh my God! But taking a cup of coffee before you start the day's work could actually be some measure of play, as some people are already doing wherever they are. They know themselves. All right. On that note, we will be happy to say goodbye this morning. Thank you, Olusola, for dropping by. Thank you, KK. Thank you, Rhoda. Thank you, Alero, the business tourist. Thank you for the comment, Adilola. Thank you, Kate. Nana was on the show. Is on the show. Who knows? But then she dropped in some comments. Nana, thank you for connecting with us today. And everyone who said something, thank you. We'll be here tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll be talking about work and praise, not work and play. We're talking about work and praise, the element of reward and value consciousness within the workplace and organization. And I'm sure it's going to be another exciting moment. So as usual, we're going to sign off with our usual word at the count of 3. We're going to have our sign off. So ready? 1, 2, 3. It's always great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.